Uh, One of the questions, Michael, that we get asked often is when you're starting up, how do you go about making early hires? When you are a completely unknown brand, nobody knows. I'm sure there would have been a day when nobody knew what Dell computer was. So how did you build the company in that period? How did you hire your first few employees?
As far as hiring, talent, when you're starting out and you sort of are unknown, you have no capital, you're hiring vigilantes. People who can't get a job anywhere else, but are willing to take the risk on your business. And maybe they're pretty versatile. Their risk appetite is very high. As the business gets more established, the risk goes down, and lots of people show up, right? And they're not necessarily the right people, so you have to be careful then as well. But look, I think when you're starting out and you have no reputation, no anything, you're sort of limited to what you can get, right? And so. You make the most of the resources that are out there, and try to find some like-minded people that are inspired by the problems you're trying to solve. I've always tried to say, okay, what are all the things that I don't know anything about? Let's find people that can do those things, and surround myself with people that were very talented and knew things that I didn't.
Can you pick one of those near-death experiences to illustrate what was the challenge like and how did you overcome that?
We learn by making mistakes, and I'm a big believer that you don't learn when things are going really well. You learn when you make mistakes, and you learn when you fail. And if you're not doing anything because you're afraid to fail, you won't be learning, and so you're finished. So you have to be willing to make mistakes and learn.
The other thing which we find very interesting is how you manage investors. And here we are talking of Carl Icahn, right? You bought back. 24 billion is a big money, but if you were to look at your overall career at Dell, what were few things that are kind of lessons in managing investors, in knowing, who is the right guy to take money from? How did you deal with all these things, and what are some of the top learnings?
The worst thing you could do to a company is to overcapitalize it. Because scarcity of capital drives innovation and new thinking and creative ideas. An abundance of capital does not. And so I'm a big believer in being really careful with capital. Certainly, we were able to create a highly capital efficient system at Dell, mainly because we didn't have any capital, right? So we didn't have any choice, and so. Necessity is the mother of invention, and I believe even if there's a lot of capital available, you should be very careful.
Michael, you call yourself the world's biggest startup, almost over $60 billion startup. You've been around for a really long time, Dell as a company. What does it take to build a company that sustains?
I really believe you have to go back to your entrepreneurial roots, and you have to take risk, and you have to embrace risk actively. Big companies, as they grow, they don't want to take risk. Risk is like control risk, risk mitigation, risk, it's like risk is bad. Well, if you have no risk, you have no innovation, right? And so you have to constantly re-inject risk back into the discussion and say, okay, let's have some experiments. Let's have some entrepreneurial contests. Let's have some crowdsourcing. Let's try some things. They're not all going to work. We don't want to try things we know are going to fail. But how do we consciously take on new ideas and explore the boundaries of what our company can become? I think it's incredibly important. If you stop doing that, you become a risk-averse, slow-moving, predictable company.
That's well said. Other aspect of building companies and startups people talk about is this whole thing about growth hacking. When you're getting bigger and you're no more in your dorm room and you're dealing with complexity, scale, how do you scale? How do you growth hack, as they call it?
I think you have to divide and conquer and break it down into various pieces, and it's hard to simultaneously hold many thoughts in your brain. And so if you ask someone to be predictable, reliable, but also experiment and grow, it's like, whoa, I can't, so you almost need to set up all kinds of new teams to go do new things. Okay, so we have a lot of experiments within Dell in this. Right now, we're hiring about 70 new salespeople per week.
Wow.
So if you know how to sell stuff, come on, join the team, and we'll train you too. But we have all kinds of new models that we've created to find new opportunities. So I'll give you an example. One of the things we found is that together with our partners, we had entire groups of customers that we weren't really covering, that we'd never really called on. And if you looked at the sort of account coverage model, you'd say, well, yeah, somebody's in charge of this account, but there's no business. What's going on? So we take a whole bunch of these accounts that we're not selling to, we get a new salesperson, and we say, we want you to go sell to these accounts. And guess what? All of a sudden, all kinds of new business pops up because we never really mined those accounts and called on those accounts. So when you do that at our scale, you find lots of opportunities to grow and expand. We've organically created all kinds of new businesses within Dell. And I really believe in this concept of listening and learning and being curious. We like to think of our companies having big ears. Mm-hmm. And so, what are we hearing from our customers? What new services, capabilities, products do they need? And how can we evolve? And if a customer is really challenging us to do new things, generally we love that because they're teaching us something that, particularly if they're a market-leading company, there are probably 10 more companies that want the same thing, and 100 and 1,000, and a lot of the new things that we've developed have been because customers said, oh, I have this problem. So I'll give you an example. Today we have a security business, cybersecurity business at Dell that's well more than $1 billion in revenue. Mm-hmm. And back in 2007, 2008, we had approximately zero, right? And by the way, this is all pretty much like a software type business, with recurring revenue streams and that sort of thing. Well, how did we do that? Well, first of all, we heard from our customers that this cybersecurity problem was increasingly an enormous concern. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just, okay, cybersecurity, it's, well, what specific problem and how could we play a role there? And let's make some acquisitions, let's make some organic investment, and let's actually go solve the unsolved problem that the customer has. If we do that, we can add value, we can grow our business, and we can enjoy some success. And by the way, if we just keep doing what we were doing before, we'll be out of business in no time, right? So we have to keep evolving.